Okay. What are some of your strengths and weaknesses? Explain.
Weak. I guess we'll start at the weaknesses. The weakness I have is almost knowing too much information and then kind of questioning what I'm doing with my life, you know? I feel like that needs refinement every now and then, but I feel like I could also stress myself out somewhat with that question.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't really do that. That question shouldn't do that. I don't really work too much. People see that as a weakness, you know. They're like, oh, I work too much. I try not to overwork myself. I go to sleep early and wake up early if I have to study for something. I don't pull all-nighters. That's never worked. I tried that once and I failed the test. So, but yeah, weaknesses would probably be maybe we're analyzing a situation too much and instead of just, you know, acting upon whatever I have to do, because, you know, you have infinite choices every day, so trying to choose between everything is insane. But the strengths would be that I do want to learn a lot of different things. I think that's important, not to just say this is all the knowledge I need and then all the knowledge that I'm going to get is just, you know, based off my career and stuff. And what you're seeing is people in their careers, they're not expanding their intellect beyond just what they learned in college, and so they get out there and then, you know, some new AI or automation comes along and makes their job obsolete because they didn't learn programming, or they didn't, you know, bother to learn any of that. They just wanted to follow the motions of whatever degree they're coming to, and they're finding out that without that curiosity, you know, to learn more things, they just hit this glass ceiling so quickly, and you know, they become dispensable in a company.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's very important, is to just keep learning.
Right. Do you work well with others?
I believe I do. I have ADHD, so like we could definitely get off topic if we're in a group pretty quickly. But I think that some side conversation is good. You know, just especially if the case matter that we're studying or whatever the project's on isn't that interesting. It definitely, like, some side stimulating
Breaks up the tension.
It breaks up the tension, and you know, you could even relate it back to the point somehow. You know, if we're talking about what for my senior project, like we're talking about, you know, TPR curves and what the hell is a TPR curve? You know, who knows? But to sit there and you know, talk about the practicalities of it. Oh, this is going to help. You know, us determine how much oil was spilled in the Gulf during BP's oil spill, you know, which is very important for environmental needs and to the economy of the state with, you know, the shrimp and other industries. It's important to know how much was spilled to know how the measures we need to take to correct the problem, right? And so kind of starting with something boring and maybe elaborating on the fact, even though that might be a little bit of side conversation, it's still important to kind of stimulate the work and maybe inspire us to finish on time and do a great job.
All right. Tell me about your major.
I'm a petroleum engineering major. There's a lot of things I can do with that. I'm finding out more and more every day. I used to think it was just oil field, but so that beyond just drilling and producing from hydrocarbon reservoirs, a lot of the problems we run into is when we're trying to produce a hydrocarbon reservoir, we end up producing water as well. And, you know, that's just wastewater, essentially. What do you do with that? But the petroleum engineers can also work in environmental agencies, developing underground aquifers that are drinking water around, like, you know, 2,000 to 3,000 feet. That's where, you know, a lot of our drinking water comes from. So petroleum engineers, that's essentially the same equations, and also working in waste well management, which is we take these depleted reservoirs underground, and where, you know, we have all this chemical from the Industrial Revolution. There's all these chemicals that, you know, are byproducts of whatever we're manufacturing, and some of those chemicals can be very harmful to the environment. So the best way to dispose of them is not to just throw them in the ocean. Of course, you put them deep underground in reservoirs and rocks where they can't come out. And so waste well management is essentially putting stuff back in the earth, all the flow equations that we're learning essentially in reverse. And there's actually good, there's great careers in that as well, not just, you know, the producing oil side, but also, you know, producing water or helping the environment in a way of disposing things that are harmful up near the surface. So yeah, that's my major, petroleum engineering.
There you go. What goals do you have in respect to your career?
Well, I guess I kind of just touched on a few of them. I don't want to be. I actually had this thought yesterday. I'm kind of researching like nonprofits and why if there's a billion people on Earth that don't have access to clean water, why aren't they developing their own resources such as underground aquifers? And a lot of it comes from, developing countries don't necessarily have the infrastructure and government that's going to fund these operations to. It's very expensive to drill a well. I mean, the rig cost per day can be $50,000 to $100,000, and then you got to case the hole and make sure that you're not contaminating any other sources of drinking water or anything like that. And that becomes very important. Is it, obviously, if you don't have a government that backs you up, you rely on private funding, I guess, from other countries to fund your project to go after water, and essentially you're relying on other people's charity to do that for your country, which may not always work, but I don't know. I just been kind of looking into that, and like I said yesterday, or it might have been 2 days ago, I kind of started looking at like the reasons why that we have such a great infrastructure. I mean, there's potable water in our toilet, that you could literally drink, and so I don't know. It's kind of changed my perception on a few things, and if I could eventually do that, have enough experience in any kind of underground reservoir mechanics that I could be a tribute to these, attribute my skills to this kind of mission to help people get access to clean water. I feel like that would probably be one of the best things I could do in my career to give back with my particular skill set I'm learning right now.
Yep. All right. How do you manage your time well and avoid procrastination?
I would say I usually set my goals, right? Ahead of time, I set a goal, but I think it's important to kind of know the parameters of your day and like when you can do things, like the opportunity to do things. But I'm not too sure that strict repetition is the best way to get anything done, because like I said, when you're studying or whatever and something gets boring, your mind tends to stop learning, and this is where we're getting with the new advancements in medicine and technology and just all the research that's being done on the human mind is that it's actually better to study for 30 minutes and take a 5-minute break, or that they say the maximum is study for doing one thing for 50 minutes, and then after that point everybody has some level of ADHD or ADD where exactly, or the general population has some level of that where it becomes important to just step back and take a break and do something else for 10 minutes before you get back to work. So I think there's a fine line between procrastinating and obviously taking breaks during your work schedule, but I don't know, I say like having a general mission about what you want to accomplish in a day or by a certain time, and then just kind of sticking to that routine of let's study these hours, because this is the best time for me to study. I find is kind of in the morning and towards probably up to about like 5 or 6 p.m. After that, I'm pretty much done studying because I've been studying all day. But yeah, I guess managing myself is just having a vision of what I want to accomplish, and then kind of putting together maybe not like a super strict plan, but if I am going to sit down and study this thing, I'm not going to get lost in the work and detach myself, because I'm just I'm not going to burn myself out.
I gotcha. Do you have any work experience, and can you elaborate on what skills you gained from this experience?
Yeah, I worked in high school. I worked at a UPS store, which was essentially like a franchise store where if you need to ship something, you come in and we create the label and everything, and then we put everything at the back of the store, and then at the end of the night, the UPS truck drivers come after they delivered all their packages during the day and load up all of our stuff and bring it to the big hub, and then it goes out from there wherever it's going. That kind of helped with interacting with people. Obviously, someone would come in and they would have literally a problem, right? They have something that I could help with, and that was that felt good to be able to help someone get whatever they, especially during Christmas time. Everybody had their gifts and they needed it to get there by a certain time, and some of it was breakable. We had all the bubble wrap and supplies and stuff, so it definitely helped me to be able to boost my communication skills with people who would come to me with a certain task they needed to get accomplished, and I could help them out with the logistics of shipping things across the country. Also, we did like copies and faxes and stuff, and I even set up, we had mailboxes too. I would set up people's mailboxes, and just overall best experience I gained with that probably is communication with everybody, organization of the storefront. I'm pretty much like listing my resume right now, what I have under that. But another job I had was I was a lifeguard for 2 summers. I was actually a pool manager the summer before I came to LSU at a country club in Lafayette. And what that kind of taught me was just more of like a leadership role, because I was more of like the head guard, pool manager type. I still had a supervisor who came in and checked everything out that we were doing, but I would lead the lifeguards and audits after work. We would do an audit like every 2 weeks where we would refresh ourselves on our CPR skills and stuff like that. So more of a leadership role experience I got from that, and that kind of helped bleed me into what I do in college now, kind of for extra money. Is I have a band, and meeting with the bars that we play at, the manager of these bars, and negotiating show details, and that takes a lot of those communication skills I learned from my first job, and then getting the band together during practices or whatever else, getting everybody to the show on time, and getting there, make sure everybody's there early to set up their equipment. That's more taps into the leadership roles that I learned at my other job. So I mean, you can see how the skills build on each other to be where I am today. With a pretty successful part-time gig, literally gigging at bars for extra money and doing something that I'm passionate about, like music, and making a living that way. So those are basically essentially the 3 jobs I've had.
Yeah, that's good. Kind of building on that, do you have any important leadership experiences you could elaborate on?
Okay, so I guess I kind of elaborated on my work leading experience. So I'll say now in school, I'm team leading our senior project group. When we first started our senior project group, we didn't know what we were going to do. So I reached out to a professor and told him that, with the kind of downturns in the oil and gas industry, we don't have a ton of experience, but we do want to do something important. And so by reaching out to a professor, we were just trying to get like an advisor, and usually you get a project from industry, but since industry is taking all these cuts right now, they really didn't have a lot of time or resources to invest in a senior project group of any sort, unless you had some kind of in with that company already. And since none of my group had real experience anywhere, we were actually able to get a project from our advisor, which was actually research in the field of engineering and fluid mechanics and the way fluids move. Essentially, it's a new model that would replicate flow out of like larger diameter pipes, which is what we see offshore. And not to go into too much detail, essentially when Macondo accident happened and a lot of oil started spilling into the Gulf, the first estimates were like 1,000 barrels per day, which people were like, that's way off. They essentially got a committee together to review. I mean, it's full of engineers, mechanical, petrophysical, everybody was there to try to figure out what was going on. And with the current models, yes, you could get some crazy estimation like 1,000 barrels per day, but with the video evidence from SpillCam and all these people coming to, all these collective minds coming together, using the models that they had that were developed for these smaller type pipes, like 4 inches or less, to try to model the flow coming out of something that was 18 inches across on the bottom of the seafloor was kind of hard to do, but I think their estimates ended up being around like 35,000, 45,000 barrels per day, 35, 45 times more than the original estimates. So what this TPR curve would do, I said I wasn't going into too much detail, but I guess I'm already there, is modeling flow obviously in these bigger pipes, and essentially making a more reasonable calculation for the worst case discharge of a well that blows out in the Gulf. And now, from the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, you have to submit this necessary paperwork with this worst case discharge calculation before you can even start any project in the Gulf. So, I mean, this is applicable right now, and that kind of helps fuel us in the right direction, and helps me be a great leader in the group, saying, this is practical, this is what we can do with this.
Okay. Have you had an experience in which either you or a group you were in encountered a problem and overcame it? If so, can you explain?
I guess I'll talk about my senior project group more. The problems we encountered were we never really had a set place to get the software we needed installed. So the way we would go about solving that problem was we met with the IT guy. Short of pestering him, we were just very deliberate in trying to get the software installed. Finally got it installed, and just, I guess, being on the ball has kind of helped us avoid a lot of problems, and a lot of the teams that I've been on when it comes toward, for school. Teamwork as far as work is concerned, sometimes there might be a show somebody can't make, or something like that, where I'm obviously on a team, we're a band, and we have to figure that problem out, whether it's getting a friend to fill in or playing the show without that member of the band, somebody else picking up that instrument. I recently had a guitarist quit, so picking up that slack has kind of been an issue that we're slowly resolving, and it's just kind of a work in progress. Everybody kind of knowing some backup instruments helps in that respect, and just at the end of the day, we love to play music, and aspiring to do that, it helps us stay on task and come together and resolve really any real problems we come against.
All right. Are you proficient in any relevant computer programs, and can you elaborate on the skills in these?
Okay. This is actually really important for lifelong learning, which it kind of dawned on me this semester, because we're writing a paper for our senior project class as well on lifelong learning, and then I wonder if I still have it. I think I got rid of it, but I scanned a copy of The Economist's special report on lifelong learning and how to survive in the age of automation, right? And it is programming. It's nowadays, even a marketing major, if he goes to get a job, it's not uncommon for someone to say, "Could you write a simple, code with whatever parameters you worked with?" And so coding and programming is becoming more, definitely more viewed as a necessity for your career. And up until this semester, I only did probably a few things in Visual Basic and Microsoft Excel, writing macros for just fundamental physics models, and some of the modeling that we did in my 2016 numerical computation class in computer modeling. I would like to know more, so in reading this special report by The Economist on lifelong learning, I found out about these massive online open courseware, or MOOCs as they're called, where you can go and they have a ton of resources. There's a ton of online universities where you don't have to pay anything, but if you want any kind of certification at the end of the lectures, you can take an exam, and of course you're charged then, but then they meet you with some sort of certification. And one of the things we actually have access to as students is for free is Lynda, And I had no idea until I started talking to one of my friends about it. And he said, yeah, we actually have a free MOOC that we can access. It's run by LinkedIn. It's called Lynda, and all LSU students have free access to it. And there's everything on there. There's accounting, physics, anything, and programming is one of the biggest used resources on there. So currently, I find myself proficient in VBA to an extent. And my experience with that is just working with fundamental models. But currently, I'm looking into, I'm in the middle of this kind of program mini session on like the beginnings of JavaScript and kind of how like HTML codes work with the script that's aligned with it, and hopefully that'll lead me into kind of becoming more proficient in like website design. And so I have like the Visual Basic coding kind of repertoire already, and just to add to that, now I've got all this information, but how can I bring that to the forefront of technology, which of course is the internet, is where everybody's getting their information. I think that JavaScript will help a lot, and you have a lot of like website generators that are out there today, but I think that it's very important to know what's going on behind the scenes. When you right click and then hit inspect and you see all that script running along the page, I want to be able to know what that's saying, what that's doing, and or having the means to look it up. And that's all that stuff is free. There's databases with thousands and thousands of lines of code and what they need, and so yeah, just trying to expand the programming I know. Like right now, I'm trying to learn JavaScript, but VBA I'm already kind of proficient in, I would say. Probably need a little bit of refreshing, honestly. I haven't done it in about 2 years, but JavaScript is definitely a more relaxed language I'm learning, and I think that everybody should be learning some sort of coding. Programming is becoming more and more important, and I don't know if we do enough to alert students that they have access to this software for free. You don't have to be a computer science major to learn programming. It's all there at your fingertips on the on the internet for free if you're a student. So I think that the more people know about that, the more people will be interested in it, because everybody's interested in computers, and to be able to know how stuff works, like it gives you a sense of empowerment. I think, yeah.
All right.
Programming is super important.
Well, thanks.
Absolutely.